Jonathan Glazer's latest offering, The Zone of Interest, is an audacious and haunting cinematic achievement. Known for his ever-evolving and experimental approach to filmmaking, Glazer once again proves his mettle as a master storyteller with this profound exploration of one of the darkest chapters in human history, the Holocaust. The story centers on Auschwitz commandant Rudolf Höss, his wife Hedwig, and their kids, as they navigate their life beside the concentration camp. Clearly, handling such sensitive subject matter requires a filmmaker of real considerable intellect and sensitivity to ensure it's treated with the respect and gravity it deserves. And Glazer was definitely the right man for the job. This particular film stands out as a remarkably successful portrayal of the Holocaust. The one thing I knew about this movie before going in that really intrigued me was the fact that it avoids any direct visual representation of the camp's horrors, which I find to be pretty fascinating and a brilliant artistic choice on Glazer's part. By choosing not to show these events explicitly, it steers clear of insensitivity or dramatization that other Holocaust films have been criticized for. Instead, the film conveys the true terror through the immaculate sound design, which is often full of distant screams, cries, and gunshots. In Glazer's filmmaking approach, he places a significant emphasis on the audience's imagination to comprehend the full extent of the horrors depicted, creating a narrative that is more effective and evocative. This technique contrasts with more explicit portrayals of the Holocaust, such as The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. By relying on subtle, suggestive storytelling rather than overtly graphic and manipulative content, Glazer's method proves to be a more profound and effective means of engaging the audience. The screenplay, co-written by Glazer, is impeccable. It's a masterclass in restrained storytelling, with dialogues that are sparse yet laden with meaning. The script delves into the dark psychology of its characters, exploring the banality of evil and the complex interplay between personal desires and moral decay. It's a remarkable examination of how Nazis utilized language to downplay and manipulate the perception of their actions. The Nazis' use of Sprachlung, a form of euphemistic language, served as a psychological barrier between themselves and their atrocious actions. By replacing stark terms like killing with more sanitized phrases, such as dispatching, they were able to subtly shift the narrative, thereby cloaking the full magnitude of their grotesque acts. This linguistic strategy is a key theme in the movie, where Nazis rarely speak plainly about their deeds. And don't get me wrong, this movie doesn't aim to elicit sympathy for its characters, as they all exhibit the most significant moral shortcomings. Nonetheless, it adeptly demonstrates how individuals perceive themselves as the heroes of their own stories, justifying their deeds, no matter how atrocious. Evil isn't limited to overtly malevolent figures. It also lurks in seemingly average, unassuming people. This is illustrated by the character of Adolf Eichmann, the principal orchestrator of the final solution. He committed heinous acts, not out of explicit malice, but through methodical, bureaucratic actions. The film delicately questions the conventional understanding of evil, encouraging viewers to reflect on their own potential involvement in life's darker facets. It challenges the audience to ponder their true difference from individuals labeled as evil. The film intelligently explores the profound question of reconciling oneself with the presence of evil, distinguished by a screenplay where each character uniquely mirrors facets of this central dilemma. Hedwig, for instance, finds solace by drowning in the luxuries of her wealth, a theme encapsulated in a vital scene where she vivaciously tries on an extravagant fur coat taken from a Jewish prisoner. Meanwhile, Rudolph emerges as a more intricate character, intriguing in the restraint and enigma of his true emotions, which subtly start to surface as the narrative progresses. The mother's response diverges significantly, infusing the storyline with a distinct sense of humanity. The film's brilliance lies in Glazer's ability to articulate these complex themes with simplicity and precision. He allows the audience to be intuitive and put the pieces together themselves, rather than spelling everything out for the viewer. Jonathan Glazer is an absolute standout filmmaker of the 21st century, echoing the legendary Stanley Kubrick in many respects. Glazer, like Kubrick, is known for the considerable intervals between his projects. It's been a decade since his last film, Under the Skin, a personal favorite of mine and a highly important film in modern cinema. Glazer's directorial approach is characterized by an adventurous leap across different genres, from crime genre to psychological thriller to experimental science fiction to historical drama, mirroring Kubrick's diverse filmography. Both burst with all sort of experimental innovation, especially the zone of interest. In this film, Glazer employs a classical prelude, a technique that brings to mind the memorable opening of Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. This method, while challenging to execute correctly, can be extraordinarily impactful when done right. Also, Glazer's use of jarring soundscapes and vivid red imagery in this film recalls the sensory experiences of A Clockwork Orange. Furthermore, Glazer's meticulous attention to visual composition, often utilizing one-point perspective, bears undeniable similarity to Kubrick's renowned usage of the one-point perspective, famously showcased in films like The Shining and Full Metal Jacket, among others. This approach creates a unique blend of order and disconcernment. It makes everything look very organized, yet cold and distant, not very human. Additionally, Glazer's tendency here to feature characters in expansive shots and quite extended takes evokes a sense of naturalism, reminiscent of Kubrick's work in Barry Lyndon. Both directors excel in subtly conveying and deconstructing the horror and humanity from a non-judgmental and almost alien-like perspective, which I find to be a very valuable asset from an artist. It's evident that Glazer draws inspiration from the finest in the field, molding his style in a way that pays respectful homage to Kubrick's legendary filmmaking legacy. Stanley Kubrick's unrealized Holocaust film is often regarded as one of the most significant movies never made, since Steven Spielberg ultimately directed Schindler's List during the same period that Kubrick's film was being conceptualized. But I do envision that it would have been something sort of similar to The Zone of Interest. While I appreciate the many merits of a movie like Schindler's List, my personal preference leans towards a different approach, and I have many critiques for it. For one, I always felt that the black and white palette of Schindler's List creates a sense of detachment, making the events feel more like historical photographs rather than a lived experience. In contrast, the color depiction, like in The Zone of Interest, brings a heightened sense of reality, modernity, and an unsettling closeness, intensifying the portrayal of such a harrowing subject. Schindler's List exhibits an exaggerated dramatization in its presentation, in stark contrast to The Zone of Interest, which often has a documentary-like cinema verite authenticity. Also, Schindler's List has a theme of triumph and success in the end, aligning with Spielberg's customary approach of pleasing the audience comfortably. On the other hand, The Zone of Interest adopts a distinctly cold approach, delivering a more profound and nuanced impact. It's not a comfortable film, and that's a good thing. The Holocaust, an utterly devastating chapter in human history, must be remembered for its true horror. Glazer intentionally omits conventional shock and catharsis in the film, purposefully challenging and provoking the audience, in a manner akin to Scorsese's approach in Killers of the Flower Moon. Therefore, any film adaptation of this event should be deeply unsettling and disturbing to capture its significance. Luckily, Glazer and all the actors clearly understood the task. Glazer manages to get fantastic and natural performances out of his actors, which he accomplished by allowing the actors to perform the scenes in completion with hidden cameras at a distance. This allowed the actors to feel comfortable and fully live in their environment as their character without distraction. One other interesting filmmaking technique is his utilization of the black and white negative-like imaging in a few moments, which is incredibly inventive and bizarre. These moments are when the only acts of kindness are shown on screen. so it's pretty ironic that it's shown as a photo negative, making it seem alien and foreign, as if from another world. The cast in The Zone of Interest delivers exceptional performances. Sandra Hüller, in particular, shines brightly this year with her spectacular roles in this film and Anatomy of a Fall. Her acting prowess places her alongside the likes of Emma Stone as one of the most impactful actresses of the year. Hüller's performance is remarkably realistic and grounded, with her authentic bursts of laughter standing out. The rest of the cast, including the child actors, impress with their naturalistic performances. Also, Christian Friedel, from The White Ribbon, is really notable, and the dynamic between his character Rudolph and Hedwig serves as a perfect counterbalance. The performances in this film strike a delicate balance between a raw, quiet intensity and subtle nuance, bringing the complex layers of the characters to life in a way that feels deeply human and unsettlingly real. Their portrayals are a visceral exploration of individuals on the brink of moral extremes, offering a mirror for the audience's own moral reflections. In The Zone of Interest, the film's visual strategy is meticulously crafted to enhance its thematic depth. The selective color palette, especially the use of muted tones interspersed with the vivid greens of the trees, creates a stark contrast with the oppressive atmosphere of the camp. This deliberate color grading serves to highlight the dissonance between the family's seemingly perfect lifestyle and their horrific reality that lies just outside their home. The cinematography is characterized by a predominantly static approach, punctuated by the occasional precise tracking shot. This technique aligns with director Jonathan Glazer's intention to eschew conventional film artifice, thereby compelling the audience to engage more directly with the historical context. The extensive use of long shots not only escalates the film's tension, but also elevates it beyond the realm of typical cinematic drama, presenting a portrayal that is both raw and disconcerting. This isn't meant to be the type of film where you sit back and enjoy yourself. It's supposed to terrify you and force you to think deeply. The film's editing is sophisticated, unfolding at a deliberate, measured tempo that intimately portrays the family's daily life. Its pacing is unhurried and meticulous, reminiscent of a Michael Haneke film, The Seventh Continent. There are some occasional abrupt edits that punctuate the narrative, leaving a lasting impression on the viewer. Despite its leisurely rhythm, the movie progresses in a way that feels surprisingly swift, and its conclusion arrives unexpectedly quickly, leaving one reflecting on the experience. It ends in a fury of sound, just like the way it begins. To me, the film's number one most compelling aspect is absolutely its sound design. It's shocking and overwhelming. Johnny Byrne has created the best sound design of the year. There's constantly many layers to the sound. There's the pleasantry of what you see on screen at the family's home, but then there's always the distant sounds of what lies beyond the wall, whether it's cries or screams or gunshots. Yet, visually, we always see the happy family in their lavish home. This insane juxtaposition speaks volumes. The haunting score by Mika Levy, interspersed with periods of silence, creates a chilling atmosphere that lingers long after the film ends. This auditory experience amplifies the emotional impact of the narrative, ensuring that the viewer is not only a passive observer, but an active participant in the unfolding tragedy. Mika Levy is one of the most talented composers we have today, and this film's score lies next to Jackie and Under the Skin as among my favorite scores of the 21st century. It perfectly complements the film and raises its power. Ultimately, the film's modern relevance lies in its deep exploration of the normalization of atrocities, the sanitization of history, the moral dissonance and denial, and the banality of evil. In conclusion, Jonathan Glazer's The Zone of Interest is a brilliant, thought-provoking masterpiece that cements his status as one of the most daring and important filmmakers of our time. It's a film that challenges its audience, providing a visceral, cinematic experience, and leaves an indelible mark on the viewer's psyche. It's a crucial and poignant representation of the Holocaust, resonating with contemporary relevance and authenticity. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, and I think that it's one of the best contenders for Best Picture. I highly recommend you check it out, but be prepared.
Super. Herzlichen Dank für
Thanks for
eure
watching,
Material.
and let me know what
Sehr
you think of it.
schön.